Okay, can we have a bit of hush, please? Okay, good evening and welcome. Nice to see everybody in the room, and hopefully we've got quite a few people online. Just to, before we really get into the meat of the evening, really nice, get rid of Mr. Hawker's beer. We're very pleased to witness Mr. Caldwell signing his contract with Nick Hawker, club chair. So over to you two gentlemen. I do realise we're still using farthings and groats, but never mind.
It's the first that we've kind of done this thing in public, but I think being the nature of the club that we are, it's nice to be able to share it with you. It's not, it is a massive thing, because we've enjoyed so much success over the years, and Gary's really bought into our model, he's really bought into the ethos that the club operates within, and I'm really proud that he wants to be here for another period of time. So sometimes you need to know when to put the shovel away. But over to you.
Right. Thank you, James. Not quite sure how to follow that. So welcome to the first fans forum of the season. Thank you for coming out again, and say thank you to the people who are watching online. So we're streaming on Grecian Plus, which will be available for people to look on playback tomorrow. Is that right, lads? Yeah, it'll be on Grecian Plus playback tomorrow. First half of the session, we've got some three very wise people talking about what's going on with the football. And the second half, Joe Gorman, our Chief Financial Officer, will be going through our supporters report, which has been just published, or will be published tomorrow. It's about 36 pages, but he's going to just cover about 10 of them tonight, I think. But it's very interesting, some really great figures in there, some great stories in there for us to look at a bit later. First of all, welcome Gary, Dan and Lauren. Thank you very much for giving up your Thursday evening. It is appreciated. They look so worried. Gary, first of all, we'll start with you. A good pre-season, you think? Did it achieve what you wanted to achieve in terms of team building and fitness levels and integrating the newer players?
Yeah, I think it did. I think I said a lot through pre-season that the physical aspect is obviously an important one, but we don't see it as just the only aspect of pre-season. I think we want to do a number of different things in terms of building our principles of play, how we want to play the game, the team building, the social aspect of building the squad and getting them integrated, new players, getting people to understand people more. So, you know, everyone has a story. What is that story? How do we really create bonds that are going to develop a team spirit that's going to see us through a really hard 10-month season? So we try and tick a lot of different boxes, and I think we achieved a lot of them. Obviously the acid test is when you get into the season and you play games and you go through, you know, tough periods, you have injuries, you have suspensions, you win games, you lose games, and then you have to, all that work, and then that work continues daily, then you have to see, you know, whether we're good enough, and we judge that at the end of the season. So far, I've been happy with the players. I think they've worked extremely hard. The group is coming together. I think you can see when I think back to last year when we played Wickham, and I know the fans thought it was brilliant, we were actually not happy with the performance, but we won 3-0. The identity we played with that day wasn't the identity that we want. I think this year, in every game, you've seen that identity. Have we won every game? No. but that identity is there, and now it's easy for us as coaches to then show why we're winning, show why we're not winning, and the players need to work at that, and we need to keep developing the players, improving the players to be better. But I believe we've got a group of players this year that can achieve something special. I think the Rotherham performance and result, would kind of back that up. Now it's about achieving that consistently.
And integrating the new players into the squad, how is that an easy job for you, or is it a difficult job? How's that gone, and have they bought into the Caldwell style of doing things?
I don't think it's just my style. I think I'm someone that's why I've got these two people here and loads of other good staff. I believe I'm only as good as the people round about me, and I believe that the hard work that we put in, the connection and the togetherness that the staff have, and how we put that across to the players, I think that is what is going to get us success. So it's not just what I think. Obviously, I have to make the decisions. Obviously, when things go wrong, I will carry the can for that. I'm fully aware of that as the manager. That is my responsibility. But in no way is it just me that's implementing these ideas, that's putting these ideas forward. I think the people round about me now that I have throughout the club, from when I came to now, there's been a huge shift in terms of the quality of staff and the numbers of staff that we have. And I think for me that's what gives me that kind of hope for success in the future, because I believe with good people round about me, then we can achieve lots this season.
And after 3 games, what are you thinking about how the team is coming together, not just on the field but off the field, in terms of supporting what you're trying to do?
Yeah, the team looks good. It's only a start. I thought we were fantastic in the first game against a team that has spent loads of money, a team that will definitely be up the top 6-8 teams in this league. We totally outplayed them. We won the game 1-0. It should have been more comfortable. And then the cup game, we made some changes, and it didn't quite go to plan. Again, we take responsibility for that as a staff, and we try and look at what we could have done better to improve that result. And then I felt the Northampton game was another game where we dominated. We should have won the game. We didn't. We need to then put that across to the players. Why did we lose the game? What do we need to do better? How are we going to improve? But performance levels for large parts of that game were very good. So we have to maintain that balance of winning football games is really hard. How are we going to do it? And performance levels, that's how we will judge the players. And if we do that over the course of the season, I believe we'll win more games than we lose. And that's what we did last season. We know there's going to be difficult periods again. Hopefully not that difficult, Nick. But we will get through these difficult periods if we build all those things that we speak about, and I believe we'll have huge success this season.
And I guess bringing Dan and Lauren into the conversation, by the work that you do, that will help players if they go through a sticky patch, help the players individually, but as a team to try and reduce that sticky patch from so many games to a lot less games. Is that the plan as well?
Yeah, look, they'll have a chance to speak. Lauren's going to show the processes she uses on the analysis side. Dan has been, obviously a lot of you know him, he's been here before, he's come back, and I think his experiences away from the football club and then coming back has made him a much better coach, much better person in terms of his outlook on football. But they all, you'll be amazed at what goes into every single day of training, the thought, the processes, the chats we have with players, the detail of training. When we watch training back, how we review it, it's a 24/7 job. You have to be fully focused, you have to be obsessed about the game to really, to do anything in this game. And I think, again, the people I have round about me are that. They commit their lives to the football club, but also to the game and to making people better. So when you do that, I think we will see improvement, we'll see development, and that is, for me, what this club's all about. Nick was saying it's nearly 2 years since I've been here, and I feel like from day one that alignment from what the football club want in terms of young players developing a style of play, that alignment with myself and what I see the game and how I see teams progressing has been really, rock solid from day one, and I think that's why I want to stay here, and that's why I want to commit my future and like I said, bring success that this club's never had. We're at a level now where the clubs that are in our league, the ex-Premier League clubs, I was at Bolton on Saturday, 29,000 in the stadium. Like, these are big football clubs, but that should never stop our ambition and our drive to match and better these clubs.
So if I was to say, what do you view success to be this season, what would your answer be?
Progress. I think I don't think we can ever say we want to achieve promotion, we want to do this, we want to do that. We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep progressing as a football club, and that is in every department. My job, our job is within the football department and making the team better and getting results on the pitch, but in every aspect of the football club, whether it be the ticket office, the canteens throughout the stadium, the training ground, everything we have to do has to be for this club to move forward, to make progress, and ultimately to get better results on the pitch. And I think we've done that from my first season. We progressed up the league. It was a difficult season, but in the end we showed progress, and we want to do the same again this year.
Looking at the league, tough league, but that's what we want, isn't it? To be at this level, playing at these people. With our playing budget the way it is, do you feel we are in a good place to compete well with these other bigger, so-called bigger clubs?
No, I always want more money, Nico.
Yeah, well, we know that. And the answer is no. I've been told to say that. The answer is no. Again. Yeah, the budget is the budget. I don't know whether you heard that one before.
Yeah. Again, I go back to my interview when I first came to the club. I knew what I was signing up for, and it didn't put me off one little bit. I knew the budget would be low for this level. I believe that should never stop you trying to achieve great things. I think we've outplayed our budget both seasons I've been here, and we have to continue to do that. That's just who we are as a football club, and it should never be seen as a negative thing. What we do as a football club is unique. There's no other football club in the country, or in any country probably, does what we do in terms of we're supporter owned. Everything we do is from you guys, the team, and we try and achieve success off the back of that, and I believe we can. I believe we can be different. We have to think differently, we have to play differently, and if we do that, again, like the success we could achieve will be incredible at the end if we manage to do that.
Okay. Slightly different now. The report on the players who have been a bit injured recently, how are they progressing, how are they rehabbing?
Michael's here, the physio's here tonight, so if you want to grill him later, then feel free. But yeah, look, injuries are a part of football. I always say the biggest clubs in the Premier League spend millions of pounds every year on staff, on equipment, and they can't get it right. We are asking human beings to perform at a level that's really, really high. We're asking them to sprint, to run. We're asking them to do it Saturday, Tuesday. It's taken a toll on their bodies that at times these people are going to break. It's up to us as a staff, myself, the football staff and the medical staff, to make sure that they are as prepared as they can be. But you're always going to have moments where you get the odd injury here and there for a number of different reasons, and at this moment in time we've got a few niggles. Sonny came back training today, Caleb came back training, Jake Richards came back training, so it always feels like you can feel like you're in a bit of a crisis with 5-6 players out, and then very quickly they come back. So hopefully the players recover quick, come back and get back into the team. Obviously the big injury that is uncontrollable, Nick's, I don't know who was at the game, but he does an action that he does every single day of his life in training and games, and in that one action he damages his knee pretty seriously, and that just shows you that most of these injuries, luck has a huge part to play. But I go back to staff, the people. We have brilliant people in the medical department, and we will work extremely hard to get them back and get them ready and keep them fit for as long as possible.
And how is Yannick doing with such a serious injury?
Yeah, he's going to be out for a long time, but he's going to see the specialist with Michael tomorrow down in London. He's getting the best care again as a club. that's what we do well. I think not only we are a football club, we look after the people, in our organisation. So we will get Yannick the best care he can to get him back as quick as he can, and hopefully we see him in an Exeter shirt again.
That'll be good. That'll be good news. That'll be a good day. What else have I got here? We've got a few questions from from people on the internet, and then we'll go to you, Lauren. Just to get these out of the way before I forget.
Am I the warm-up for Lauren?
You're the warm-up, yeah. For the series, yeah, the person who knows really what they're talking about. Academy players. This season we've started games without academy players. Is that the way it's going to be now, or are they still in your mind to get academy players playing, or are we going to be relying on the loanees coming in now? Is it going to be a mixture?
Look, this is something I've spoke about probably since I came to the club. The record, I think, is incredible. What the club did to start an academy player for, I don't know how many games or years it was. It was a long time, and it was a really special record that meant a lot to me, and I wanted to keep it for as long as possible. My job is to get the best players on the park, and in recent years, Archie Collins, Josh Key has won good sums of money. Last summer we lost Harry Kay and Alex Hartridge. MJ left in my period, so I think there's cycles in football where young players come into the team and it's brilliant, and I think those players had great success winning League 2 and getting promotion into League 1 with an academy group of players. But at some point that has to come to an end. We hoped that the next generation comes through and gets into the team, but occasionally there's periods where it goes a little quieter and you don't have the amount, the volume of players and the quality of players. But I think the big thing for me is the game after the academy run went, we're giving Liam Oakes his debut, Czech's playing, Pedro's playing, we've got other academy players on the bench. So, do we want academy players in this team 100%? Again, go back to when I first came to the club, that's why I came. The need to develop young players, the need to play young players is something I believe in. I've done it at every football club I've been at, but there will be moments where, the game we lost it again, Sonny was injured, Jake was injured, so it was only really Czech. The back three that we had that day was fantastic. It's a run we want to start again, we want to get more players in the team, but all good things come to an end, and we have to, get the best team in the park. At this level now, I think we're asking academy players to do a lot. We're asking academy players to come in at League 1 against big clubs, big teams, and that challenge is great for the academy. We have to raise the bar in the academy to try and do that, but I've every faith that the next batch of players will come, and there'll be academy players again in the future that the supporters can watch and enjoy watching at this stadium, and again hopefully they move on for good sums of money again.
Okay, thank you. Did we look at trying to get Luke Harris back? Was that any conversations with them about getting him back?
Yeah, look, I remember I texted Luke in the summer. I was on an all-inclusive holiday, and the first night I walked round the buffet 4 or 5 times when I still walked round. And I'd seen a big, huge tray of onion rings, and he loved his onion rings, Luke Harris. And I took a picture, and I sent him, I said, "We'll get you these if you come and sign back for Exeter." But he never came, unfortunately. But no, I've kept in touch with Luke. I thought he was an incredible young player who'd done brilliant for us, but he was probably similar to Stano. Near the end, he kept scoring goals, and I was thinking, right, enough's enough now. You need to stop scoring to give us a chance to get you back. But he's obviously went to Birmingham, similar to what Stano did, and we wish him well.
And did we ever try and sign Dion?
Dion, again, we spoke. All our loan players last season were really impactful in the team. I had Veal even texting me today. He's potentially coming down, I think, next week to see Ime and wants to pop back in the training ground. I think that connection that you guys and girls make in terms of the loan players that come to our club and the connection that we can make even with loan players is special. And to see that players that have only been here a year, how much they love the club, how much they want to be part of this club and come back is a great thing.
Okay, I remember you saying last year you wanted to challenge that particular squad to be the best ever Exeter City football team. Is that still a challenge out there to the squad?
To make progress and be, to make history. I think there's not many clubs in world football that you could play for and at the start of the season have that opportunity to make history. I think if I think of Man City a couple of years ago, they won the treble. It's never been done before in their history. It's a historic thing. But at Exeter City I think it's 8th, am I correct, Nick, in my history of the football club? It's 8th is the highest finish at this level for the whole club. We finished 13th last year. We're getting closer, and as long as we keep making progress, then one day we're going to break that barrier and become a team that you guys will remember for.
Okay, I think we're going to move on to Laura now, so you can have a breather, but just tangerines and pies, I'll leave that one with you. Tangerines and pies, does that mean anything to you? Okay, we'll come back to that one a bit later, I'll let you think about that. So can I introduce you to Lauren Jones? Lauren has joined us as, hopefully I get this right, Head of Performance Analysis, is that correct? So welcome. Having previously worked at Southampton and at Forest Green, is that correct?
Yeah, I went to Forest Green for a few months last season.
So it's really good to have you here. Gary said of her details and presentation were fantastic, and then later on we actually used her to give presentations to the boys because it was a different voice for them to listen to. So I know you rate Lauren highly, don't you, Gary, what she can offer to the squad and the team and the overall performance. So, Lauren, over to you. Just a little bit about what you do. Is there a typical day in your day job? How you got into it, why you got into it, and what do you do, really? Over to you.
So I'll start off with what we do, really. I made a little presentation just to kind of give you guys an insight it's kind of like a weekly cycle, how we kind of go around. So, first of all, in the department, it's not just me. It's me, Alex, and Harry. So, Alex has started with us as an intern a few years ago, went on to be a part-time and now is a full-time member of staff of us. And then Harry is now our new work placement student who's come in for a sandwich year during his university. This is kind of our role within the squad. So it's our job to kind of like help the team understand the tactical information that the manager wants to give out, how we want to play, and basically support the team for how we want to win our way. And you'll see this little diagram here in the middle. That's kind of our weekly cycle of how we kind of go around. So we start the week looking at opposition, who we've got coming up, highlighting like things, the way that they play and how our philosophy can hurt them and how we can stop their strengths. We then do a lot of training analysis, go on to the match day, and then post-match analysis. So here's just a couple little screenshots of how we would kind of demonstrate some opposition analysis to the players. So this is a mixture of our Rotherham and something from Northampton as well. So we like to use a lot of video analysis, but also stats as well to back up with what we're saying. So in the first few clips at the top, you can see how it's a paused frame, but we just like to highlight certain details of what the opposition are doing. It's just to make it clearer for the players so then they can see things straight away, and it helps us get our point across quite quickly. We also like to use stats as well. So, for example, Alex put in this chart here with goalkeeper analysis and his passes, his like passing range, basically to show that we knew that Northampton were going to be a very direct team, and it just backs up another little point to support it. We then moved on to support training. So we've recently just had this trailer built and it's got an outdoor TV in it, so that on the side of the training pitch, when they're going through their session, if anything's seen, we can bring the team over and then just give them like instant feedback, and it just helps that learning process. It just makes it a lot quicker for them to get information. What we do with training is we use a drone to film the training session, just so we can get a different insight and perspective on the session, and that's just a screenshot of like what we would kind of see. So it's a lot easier to see than just being close to the ground. You can see a bit of everything. And then on a match day, you might see us climbing up the gantry to the side of the pitch, and again it's just to give us this like higher perspective on the game, just so that we can give information down to the bench, and we clip and live code throughout the game and pick out specific things to either help with half-time, or we code the game so that it helps our processes after the match to help review and to help the players. So for example, in the top right hand corner, that's just like a few clips that we show at half time to be like, this is how we're going to win, or this is how we need to stop their threats, and things like that. We like to keep it just like quite short with like 1 or 2 kind of points, just so it doesn't, just so it's specific for what we want from the players. And then just an example for just some stats that we've put down throughout the game as well, just so we can see the flow of the game from a objective perspective rather than always subjective. And then after the games, we do post-match analysis for the team. We sometimes break that down into units if it's more specific, something that's just for the defenders or the attackers. And then we also like to break it down with individuals and support Dan and the other coaches with messages that need to be given to the players. And this is normally like linked around the key messages for the game, so it's like the cycle of what we showed in the opposition, what we showed at the game, and then how it all links together, all linking to what our philosophy and playing style is, as well as behaviours that we want to constantly see, and then the tactical philosophy is what I just mentioned. So that is kind of a quick, well-rounded insight of what me and Alex and Harry do on a week-to-week basis.
So the question for the internet is, how do they turn around 45 minutes of play, 1 minute for the half-time team talk?
Yeah, so during the game we have like a camera set up with a live feed into the laptop, and then we use software to be able to clip out elements of the game. So as we're going through, we have code windows that we've created that will link to the playing style that we all collectively know how we kind of want to play. So we're going through doing that, and then if like common themes are popping up, that's when we'll start to be like, okay, that's a theme, and then we can put it inside little organisers. Then once we see that there's a theme that's kind of like continuing throughout the game, and maybe will need to either be changed or kept on going with for the second half, that's when we'll mention it. We also have radios down to the bench, so we have communication with the rest of the coaches throughout the game to be like, oh, this is happening from our perspective, or they'll shout up to us and be like, can you see this? And then we just have that constant communication throughout the game so we can get the points across.
So in terms of the coding, it's like specific actions, so Lauren and Al or whoever does it on that day will be literally pressing a button every time an action happens, so the clip is almost like made up. You get 10-15 seconds either side. But I think back to Port Vale last year where we were 2-0 down, and normally they're either up in the gantry here or normally on the other side, so they don't get to the change room as quick as we get there. So at Port Vale, myself, Kev and Pitz, I was in full rant mode, 2-0 down, just thinking, this is not right, this is not right, this is not right. And Lauren came in with the laptop, opened it up and said, we just need to do this and this and we'll win the game. And we were like, yeah, that's it. So then we get 2 or 3 clips, like Lauren says, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I was just ranting about. But Lauren has a brilliant way of putting it into a clip or saying something that allows me to then transmit that over to the team in my way. Lauren's got a way, I've got a way. They're very different. But yeah, that's how the half-time, the specific. It has to be clear, it has to be, this is going to change the game, or this is what we're doing that is helping us win the game. And when we can give the players, it's not, because it's not a tactics board, because it's actually live and they can see themselves, then they almost believe it more. And when we put that across them, it's happened numerous occasions where there's something not quite fixed at half time, but they won, and obviously it worked.
Gary, have you now found you've had to learn a new skill to interpret that information in a flash almost?
Yeah, we've spoke about this a lot. I don't mind the chaos at half time. A lot of people, Dan might, be different. Kev is different. I quite like a lot of voices. I quite like a lot of opinions. I quite like debate because it almost confirms in my mind what's needed. Because again, like you said, all that input is quality people who've seen good things, and then it's up to me to filter that and put it across to the players and get it to the players in a way that they believe it, and then they can carry it out. So I quite like the chaos at half-time sometimes that we have in terms of different opinions, and then obviously when we see the clips, it's then right, we then, pretty much me and Lauren will decide that these are the 2 clips we want, maybe in possession, 2 clips out, 4 clips would probably be the max we've ever shown. And then now it's about how do I deliver that to the players. I'll probably have 2 minutes to show and convince the players that this is what's needed to work.
Ooh, what's the fine, Dan?
It's a new player, so we're all right.
Oh, he's such a laugh, isn't he? So, to get that information across in 2 minutes, you have to be quite clear and succinct in what you're saying and how you do it. And you've got 11 people there, maybe 15. Got to understand that same message. Is that a skill you've learned and are still learning and refining?
No, that's where Lauren comes in. That clarity of the pictures. So we're seeing the game from a low level. Greener goes up, Pitz go up. Pitz is like a yo-yo. You've probably seen him up and down. Greener stays up, Lauren and Al are in the gantry, so that view that they see is different, and they probably are more clear. I then, they have to get that point across to me, and I trust them that what they're seeing is right, and then my job is really to deliver it and convince the players at that point.
So you've really got to put a lot of trust into 2 or 3 people for that message to get across. And I'm guessing they get it right most of the time?
Yeah, or it kicks off a little bit.
Hard to believe. I lost my thread now. And the players, now they've been doing it for a while, they've totally bought into it and understand it and accept it.
Yeah, I think we've got a good group of players, and they all seem to be open to learning and taking on information, and not had any problems with anything like that really. So yeah, I'd say it's a good group of players that want to learn and do better. So
I guess it's trust the process. If they see the process working, then they trust it more and more, don't they?
Yeah.
And having the TV on the field at the training ground, that must help enormously, because you don't have to wait to go back to the classroom to show them what's going on.
Yeah, well, we've started using it this week. It's been up and running, and we have noticed it's really handy just to give the feedback so quickly. Sometimes we'd then go back in before, review it, and then have to go out and then do similar things the next day. By that time, the players have almost forgotten the action, but being able to show it to them straight away, it just speeds up that learning process.
and must help you enormously because you can show them right away and they don't have to
Yeah, definitely.
wait.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Dan, we'll come back to you in a minute, Lauren, but you thought you were going to get away with it, didn't you? So welcome back.
Thank you very much.
I did say at the beginning, Dan, the first question would be, what did the 2008 Dan think of where the 2024 Dan is now? What was the answer? How do you think those years, what's going on? What's happened? How are you feeling?
That's quite a deep question to always listen to, isn't it? No, I think you'd be quite proud on a personal level to represent a club that obviously means a lot. Certainly when you grow up in an area, I think it's a proud moment to be able to help this club progress to this level and to probably more importantly be part of so many players' careers and development. And you know, it's interesting you talk about the run ending, but I would still argue that every Saturday now, I don't know about you, but there's so many teams I check because we've got so many players that are out there. And I think even Saturday will be an incredibly proud moment because I'd imagine we'll have Joel, Jack and Archie all back on the pitch and I'll be delighted to shake their hands when we win at the end of the game. But again, it's an incredibly proud moment for us all because you guys have played a huge part in inspiring them to... Every young player talks about playing in front of the big bang. Every young player talks about playing in front of their friends, their family, and I think that's what this club represents. So going back to what would a younger me think, I think I'd be incredibly proud of the progress and the belief that the club can continually improve.
Now, you've been very heavily involved in developing the academy players and hopefully that will carry on. But you said to me earlier when you were in charge at Rotherham for that month, the number of ex-Exeter players you bumped into.
Yeah, again, obviously incredibly disappointing when Matt left Rotherham, but myself and Wayne were there for a month, and it was incredible because our first game was a Friday night game against Leeds. So I'm straight into Ampadu after the game asking for a shirt, and then the next game was Swansea. So we had Matt Grimes and Josh Key, and the final game was Birmingham away. So straight into Stano. So yeah, my shirt collection got better. My points haul wasn't great, but the shirt collection certainly improved.
So you must be glad to be back. You must have seen such big differences since you were last here.
Yeah, that's probably the question that everyone keeps asking. You know, can you see the difference? And I keep saying, literally, the only thing that's still the same is the badge, because everything else about the club has progressed to such a higher level. And I think one of the biggest attractions to coming back. So I'm the type of person that wants to continually improve and progress. The people that I'm around, myself. And I think the intent of the club's changed. I think we're not afraid to say that we want to get better anymore. And I think that's, again, it's inspiring and something that you want to be a part of and something that you want to help accelerate.
So in your role as, you've been described as the bridge between the sort of just about breaking into the team and the main team, is there a typical day of how you work with those players? And can you give us a flavour of what that involves?
A typical day is probably difficult to explain. The best way I could describe it is that the thing that gets me up in the morning is to help every player improve, or any player improve. So, of course, a younger player might have more obvious aspects to their game to develop, to help align to what they need to get into the first team. But I think one of the biggest things I've learned over the last 10 years doing this is actually that every player still wants to improve and progress, and it's about recognising where are they, where do they want to get to, and what's the gap. So a typical day for me is in various forms, just trying to help players to do those things.
Also, I'm guessing it's when a player has a good game, trying to keep him level, and when a player doesn't have such a good game, maybe just to say, it's okay, there's another game coming.
Again, though, I think the manager's big on it, and Lauren's a huge part of it, but the process that we try and stick to it is incredibly consistent, because if you believe in something, that's why you consistently do it. So with regards to good games, bad games, I think you're always looking at well, okay, what's gonna take you to the next level, and it might be more consistently performing those excellent games, and other areas it's actually, what do I need to improve? But I think consistency is the biggest aspect of improving any player.
And can you see some academy players, I don't want to name names because I don't want to jinx it, but can you see some academy people coming through this season and making the first team?
Yeah, I think again the most important thing with young players is actually just to focus on improving every single day. With a young player, you've got to think they might have 5-10 years worth of growth that they haven't had time to do compared to a senior player. So to expect that jump, certainly at this level, is incredibly difficult. And I think that the most important thing for the player is, again, understanding where do they want to get to and what are the habits that they need to consistently apply to get themselves there. And I think then where they end up will take care of itself.
I'm guessing the work that Lauren does helps you with those conversations because you can show them what's going well, what's not going so well.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all the type of staff, like the manager says, where we are fairly relentless. I mean, straight away on the bus after a game, we'll tend to be watching the game back. Straight after training, it's good to watch it back. But the biggest thing I like about this group of players is that's reciprocated. It's not us pushing it onto them. If anything, they're knocking on the door asking for more. And I think, again, why come back to the club? Well, the club's intent to change, but also there's a group of players here who are hungry to develop and get better because they know that the individual development will be a massive part of the club and the team's progress.
So you hopefully that experience that you've gained will help bring those players on?
Yeah, you'd like to think so. I think people always talk about experience, but really experience is only actually the lessons that you learn. So there's been a few things over the last couple of years that I would have taken a huge amount from, but there's also the 10 years previous at this club that I'd be incredibly proud of the work that we did and would look to sustain some of those things that we also put in place.
Go on, Mr. Hooker.
Just picking up on what you said there, Dan, the willingness, and Lauren said the same thing, the willingness of the players to learn. That has to say something really strong about our recruitment at the club, that when we bring players in, that they're not just good footballers, but that willingness to learn. I guess this is Gary really, but is that something that's really important when we recruit? That we're not just signing a great player, but we're signing players that want to get better at Exeter?
Yeah, it's something we look into quite a lot. Myself and John Pitz, we always meet the player, whether that be on Zoom, if we can't kind of get to him or he can't get to us. We ask them specific questions that we feel kind of into their character and what they want to do moving forward. We get as many references as we can from other players that have played with them. Again, we use all of this because we're pretty much any player that we are looking to sign, there's always someone that we'll have worked with or know that player. So we're very big on signing good players, but we're big on signing good people as well and finding out the motivation for that player to want to come to Exeter. Why did and are they buying into what we're going to put in front of them? And I think that's what good recruitment is. It's getting them to fit into what we're looking for, whether it be in terms of the profile of the player and what they can do as a footballer, but also the person and what they're willing to do as well.
Okay, probably a good time to go to the floor and ask questions. Sue, you've got your hand up. Sorry, Andrew, I know you're desperate to ask a question, but we'll go to Sue first.
I was just thinking back to my own experience of work. Do the team do you ask them about potential new players before you actually sign them? Somewhere I worked, we always got a say on whether we thought the person was okay or not. Do the players get a say at all?
They don't get a say in terms of who it is, but if we have a player who's played with a player that we're looking at, then we'll obviously ask, what's he like? Is he a good person? Does he want to get better? Why would he want to come here? So yeah, it's again just checking as many avenues as we can to dig into that player's character and see what he's like as a person in terms of the player, we don't really ask people's opinions of other players, do you? As a person, I think it's good.
Okay, we'll take some more questions from the floor, maybe. Do you want to ask a question?
So Peter asked if I would ask a question. I said a hard one or an easy one, and he said it better be an easy one. So Gary, I interviewed you directly after the ECFC game, and obviously you just lost Yannick. At that stage, you didn't know what the severity was of that injury. You've since brought in Cammy Doyle, but I don't think he's a like replacement as such. So what's your thinking about that? Does that change the way that you think the team is going to be set up for the rest of the season, or are you going to still keep badgering Nick for some more money and get another left-sided midfielder?
Well, I've heard the budget's still the budget, so yeah, look, we're looking for 2 players. If we can squeeze that into the budget, I think the profile of Yannick is something we need to try and find. We need to try and find some speed, and we're looking into that, and we're hopefully going to get another player as well. But it's clear what the team needs, and I think again I go back to all the stuff, the analysis, how we play, the philosophy. That I think gives us the understanding of what we need when we play. We can it's easily to identify what we need because we know exactly how we want to play. And yeah, Yannick's a big loss, not just as a player, as a person. He's a fantastic character in the changing room, and we need to try and replace that player and that X factor on the last line.
Anything else, Andrew? Or anybody else got a question for Gary?
Gary, do you think about players at the club and perhaps on the fringes of the squad at the minute, and whether they're going on loan at the moment? I'm told to think Harry, Ed and Charlie. Have you got any plans, or whether you plan to keep them, or do you not know yet? First team squad and going out on loan, I mean.
I'll answer that, and I think probably Greenock can add to it. I think all young players are individual, so while some of them are closer to the squad than others, everyone you have to take on an individual basis at that time. To use one of the players, you asked about Ed James. I think Ed James has made huge progress in the last 9 months, but he's not been on loan because we feel the training he gets daily, coming up against Josh McGuinness, Millie Alley, being asked to pass the ball out of defence and play the way we want to play, has really developed Ed. Does he need games to go with that? We don't feel like he does at the minute. Would Harry Lee benefit from a loan? He probably would, because he's a goalie. He needs to make decisions as a goalie in different games. So every player is different, and that probably changes throughout the season as Ed might develop rapidly this year but not quite be close to the first team. Can we now get him a loan at a level where we're going to test what he's learned? So those are constant discussions with myself, with Greener, with Marcus, that all those players are constantly being evaluated and assessed at what is the best thing for their development to get them closer to our first team. I think we also this year have a brilliant games programme for the 21s. So we have the Under-21 Premier League Cup, we have the Papa Johns, where some of them might get integrated into the team on those games. So hopefully between now and Christmas, we have a number of games where those players can test their learning on the training pitch against good quality opposition, and we can see where they are.
I think the big thing with the loans is interesting. When a lot of the young players sort of broke through in the COVID season, everyone was probably quite surprised by it. There was a lot of work that came before, and I think, like the manager says, the biggest thing I think this season is the club's made a real effort to provide a provision of a games programme that we feel that can push these boys and get them closer. So I think that's probably the biggest aspect that this year we actually feel like we can provide that games programme ourselves as well. And that allows us to be probably slightly more selective with the right loan for the right player at each time.
Anybody else got anything else? Oh, yes, Michael.
So a slightly less serious question for Gary. What did Mr. Evans see in the Rotherham game that upset him so much? Because I actually thought the officials were better than some of the ones we had last season.
That was just two Scottish people having a chat after the game. That's what happens in Glasgow on a Saturday night.
Right, let's move on. Hold on, Steve, I'll come down to you. Hold on. So people on the internet can hear.
So, Lauren, you came from Southampton, is that correct?
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, what are they doing analysis-wise that you'd like us to be doing? Because I remember Gary talking about Ipswich a couple of seasons ago, having like a bank of people behind the dugout that were, doing a similar sort of role that I guess you and your colleagues do. So I just wondered how we get better at doing what you're doing. I know the budget's a budget and everything, but in an ideal world, what would you like us to be doing that we're not?
Yeah, I worked at Southampton for 4 years, and I thought the way that their analysis processes and the way that they went about things was really good. And I have implemented quite a lot of that kind of process and style to how we can be efficient with our roles into what we're doing day to day. Obviously, the scale of the amount of people that they have is way bigger than what we have, but I think that we can almost prioritise what's important and what we can use at the moment, and then as the team starts growing, then we can probably grow to a similar level and just get that little bit more specific and more detailed. But at the moment, I think that we've prioritised what's important and what we can help with the team.
And how do we compare to other League One clubs? Do you know?
I think we're probably very similar. Very similar, yeah. I think probably the staffing levels with 3 of us, or 2 full-time and 1 intern, is quite common. Obviously, you'll get like the Ipswiches that would have probably similar levels to what the Premier League had at the time, so they probably won't change, but I reckon that we're probably pretty similar to everybody else.
I think when I first came to the club, we had Marcus was the first team analyst really that was doing that and recruitment at that time, and obviously moved into a different role as I came. But we had Al at that time was the intern, and he was like the analyst. So in terms of, again, I keep talking about progress. That was what we had just under 2 years ago. Now we've got 2 full-time and an intern. Lauren actually came originally on a loan, which was Marcus's idea, which I thought was a brilliant idea, to loan a staff member, because Lauren's kind of pathway to first team was blocked, so we gave her the opportunity to work in a first team environment, and then obviously went to Forest Green and came back to us. But I think when I see the progress, we had no head analyst, we had no graphics that we could really show. If any have been in what's it called, the chalet at the Cliff Hill training ground, it is the longest room in the world where we had a screen, and I had to speak to some of the players shout to some of the players at the back to see if they could see it. Now we have a fantastic meeting room. We never had a drone, now we have a drone, now we have a TV at the side of the pitch. So again, I go back to progress. Since I've been here, we have progressed a huge amount in terms of analysis, in terms of coaching, in terms of the staff that we now have at the Cliff Hill, and that's what Lauren will continue to do. When I spoke to Lauren about coming, I said, this I'm not going to drive this department, you're going to drive it. You're going to take it to the next level and get us to a level that we believe is better than League One clubs and pushing higher, and that's what we're trying to do in every area.
Not sure you want to get a question from this man, but don't mind.
I don't know what he's doing.
Why did you give him the mic?
He's heard me sing. Gary, you touched on it earlier, away from the training itself, the physical side of it. You mentioned how important it is off that training pitch, how you get those players to engage, etc. Motivation is the key word. And you mentioned John Pitz. I don't know if many people know that name or John Pitz Row within the club, particularly around the first team, and not just the first team, for the youngsters as well. It might be worth explaining to everyone John's role.
Yeah, John is head of performance and well-being. He comes in 2 or 3 days a week. He's at most games, and he's someone I didn't actually. I knew him, but I had never actually met him in person before I came my first day here, because every interaction we had was on a phone call or on a Zoom, and he was somebody I got introduced through Graham Barrow, who I worked with at Wigan. He worked with him at Shrewsbury and Wrexham. And he came in as, I felt like we needed someone that looked after, not psychology, but the well-being of the players, and the players, you know, how they learn, how different players think, and to help the coaches really to coach those players. And John has worked at Formula One with Red Bull. He's worked in Olympic squads for dressage and different things. So his experiences are vast and totally different to the experiences we have for other staff, and he really helps us as a coaching staff communicate to the players. He also speaks to the players. I think he's really important link that, you know, we're in the side of we pick the team and we have to coach the players. John's a bit out of that in terms of he looks after the players' well-being and makes sure they're okay, and so that the players are in the right place. And he's another big part of what we do as a staff, that the players have that support there when they need it.
Okay, it wasn't too bad, was it? It's quite a good question, that. So we've got a question from the internet.
Yes, Gary, this is a question from someone called Kev Nicholson.
What a sad life he's got, huh?
He says, is it true that England's sea caps are pretty much the same level as a full Scotland cap?
Has he got 55 England sea caps?
Tomorrow morning's going to be interesting at the cliff.
This came from a game we played here. The technical area here, as you've probably seen, gets a bit feisty at times. And there was one time where the opposition had a go at Pitz, because he was actually having a go at them, but they said he was having a go at the player in the park who had so many caps for his country. And Pitz's reply in Pitz fashion was brilliant. He said, "I've got 11 England sea caps." And at the time I was thinking, what is a sea cap? Didn't actually know what that was. So then we had a debate after about what an England sea cap was, and it turns out Kev Nicholson's got a few as well. So now the joke is always that England sea caps are really important caps. And they feed into Scotland caps.
Okay.
But the fact he's watching this, at what time is it? 7 o'clock on a Thursday night, just tells you everything you need to know about Kev Nicholson.
Okay, well, I think we'll move on again. Anybody else got a question before we start to wrap this up? Is that allowed?
No, he's only allowed one.
He's not allowed, the only one was in. So, Lauren.
What made you take on the career of an analyst, and what drove you down that road to football in general?
Well, growing up, I always played football and enjoyed football, but I did a sports science and coaching degree. On my final year, we had an analysis module, and I really enjoyed it. So I thought I'd pursue that, and I did a master's degree alongside an internship at AFC Bournemouth. And then from then on, I've just carried on working in football. Really enjoyed it. So yeah, I went the uni route, and then with internships, and now I'm here. Yeah.
And we're lucky to have you. Just a couple of questions, finally from me for Gary. The really important question of the evening. Everyone wants to know who's winning the tennis, you or Perks?
We actually played a doubles match last night with Roger from Thrifty and lost heavily, so yeah, we're both in a bad place at the minute. But I think we've we've got a big game Saturday morning.
Okay. Do we talk about the Euros?
Yeah, more than happy.
Scotland and England performances. What's a quick analysis of that for you? I'm talking about the footballers, not the fans.
Yeah, I was going to say one team came back with a trophy, the best supporters. That was us. And yeah, look, I think for me, I mentioned this actually before the final at the fixture launch. The competition was going on, and I said I think England would get to the final. I think they'll lose because they don't have a clear identity. I think the team in the tournament with a clear identity won it in Spain, and I see it tournament after tournament, year after year, where England should win major finals. They don't, because they always look at someone else, whether it be Spain, whether it be Germany, whether it be Italy, and they follow a trend instead of saying, this is who we are, we have the best players, we have to play this way, and that's going to win us a tournament. And I think we talk about it a lot at our club, process over outcome. England go to tournaments thinking about the outcome and don't focus on the process of what's going to get them there.
Okay, that was quite easy, wasn't it? Come back to that last point I made to you before we broke to Lauren, Tangerines and Pies. It's a book written about the Wigan promotion season. And it mentions you, obviously, Perks and Yannick a lot. A fan was wondering whether you get it signed for him.
Yeah, not a problem.
So, well, Bridgie, you get into us, we can get those three to sign it for you. So, that's it, unless there's any one last final question. Gary, is there anything, or Dan and Lauren, is there anything you'd like to ask the audience? By the way, there will be t-shirts tomorrow in the club shop. The budget is the budget. Nick says the budget is the budget. Anything you want to ask at all?
Thank you for your support. I think, I don't just say it. I think this club is special, and it's because of the people that turn up every week, that saved this football club 20 odd years ago, and hopefully we can get a team you can be proud of. We can get a team that the big bank really gets singing for, and we can have some special times ahead.
Thank you very much indeed. Once again, thank you for giving it your evening. Gary, Ram and Lauren, thank you very much indeed. So, if we could reconvene at 7:45, and then we can get Joe's 2-hour presentation started. Yeah, if we get back here for 7:45, and then we'll go over to Joe. Many thanks. Okay, let's make a start, please. Do you want to close those doors from the... So it gives me great pleasure to introduce Joe Gorman, the club Chief Financial Officer, who will be going through the annual supporter report for the year ending 30th of June 2023, ably assisted by Nick Hawker. So any questions about stock depreciation, amortation, if I can't say, Nick's your man. So Joe will be about 20-minute presentation, take questions at the end. Report will be due out next couple of days, Nick? So you'll be able to download it. It's about, 32 pages?
Depends if you include the glossary. It's 58 if you include the glossary.
Okay, so some light reading there if you want. Over to you, Joe.
Before we start with this dead exciting piece, because finance is always dead exciting, I think I wanted to comment on Lauren, Dan and Gary, and how lucky we are to have a team that are prepared to come and talk in the way that they do, and it's really clear that they're proud to be here. So, and I hope that you enjoy the fact that when we can roll out players every day of the week, but to learn a little bit about what goes on behind the scenes and all the work that Lauren does, I mean, that's amazing. That's mind-boggling for me. I can't, even now I can't imagine how it gets done, but we're so lucky to have people, but it's because of the type of club that we are, that we attract these people, and they actually want to come here. And Dan's come back. Dan's been at Aston Villa and at Rotherham, and he's chosen to come back to Exeter City, and I think that's says something really special. Before I hand over to Joe and the supporter report, so this report was given to a roundtable group that Clive Harrison runs as part of the supporter experience group, and they have fed back some really useful commentary around what's not quite right about it. So all the numbers add up, so don't worry about that. But MJ has very kindly offered to do some proofreading for us, and it does need that because it's 58 pages, I think. So there will be some small, when you download it tomorrow, there will be some things that maybe you want to ask questions on. But rather than delay the release of it any further, we'll still pass it on to MJ. I think this is really valuable feedback from the roundtable. So if you're a part of that group, thank you very much. It's all valuable. The effort that goes into this report is enormous. It's 58 pages of data, but I know that's hard work putting it together. But because of the club that we are, it's important that we do that, and you see far more of what goes on under the bonnet of Exeter City than most supporters will ever see from their football club. So it's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it's got some really nice pictures in it. So I'm going to hand you over to Joe.
To be fair, I was already thinking how do you follow the first half there, but Nick set that up beautifully. So the annual supporter report, I think the first thing to say is it's 2023, it's obviously quite obviously out, far too late. What we're trying to do with it is effectively present it as like a shareholder report. So obviously being fan owned, you should know this information, but also it kind of, you release the annual accounts and you kind of, that's just one way of interpreting the information. It's actually one of the things we've tried to do is get it so that you can interpret it a different way, and it kind of makes hopefully a bit more sense. So there's the content. So we try and break it down into sections: so governance, finance, sporting, social, and then the glossary at the end. Naturally, I'll probably do more on the finance than I will the other areas. But what I was going to do is just take you through page by page, just so you can see it, and then I'll focus on certain pages, which I think will hopefully see one, progress, but also probably just delve into what the 23-24 report might look like. So obviously just 4 words there, key facts. So we just try and put some information within there. So I think the big thing is the social media following around there, and just some data compared to other seasons. I think one thing to note, and the other thing we found in the 23-24 season, is the average attendance. So average attendance in 22-23 was 6,711, 23-24 to 6,802. So when we kind of go, when you initially see a 6,711 attendance, you kind of go, okay, promotion season, first season in League One, but to be able to see that we've sustained that, and then to be able to kind of go, okay, that feels like a consistent figure now, so we can use that number and project outwards for the next 3 years, is something that's really valuable to us. So again, governance, you've just got basically how the board is made up. Finance, so this is the overview, and we go into a lot more detail in the different sections. So obviously revenue increases, total income, sustainable income. So one of the things we've tried to do in here is highlight what is consistent income throughout every year and stuff that's probably more one-off, something that we would obviously call non-sustainable. So, and then the other figure then you should look at is operational profit and loss. So we talk about, in some of the previous fans forum, we'll talk about being a sustainable football club and being able to use transfer revenue for capital infrastructure projects. That's still kind of a journey we're on. There's, I'm sure you don't need to be reminded of kind of playing budget will still be quite low compared to other teams. So it's competing in League One is becoming more and more financially unsustainable unless you've got a huge kind of benefactor. And I think one of the things that Lauren touched on actually is there's an Exeter City way of doing things. So I think a great example of that is the screen actually that they use. So the idea for the screen came from Watford. So Watford had a 30,000 screen that they use. So we've taken that and basically produced that trailer for, I think it was £4,500 from basically Justin and Taz's work. So it's that, okay, the end result is the same, right? But you kind of do it in an exercise way, so you're thinking slightly different about it. How can you use your money more effectively? There's lots of things around there we can do. So sporting, I won't dwell too much on this one. So one of the things I'd just point out there was SCMP ratio. So we've started to include that. That's the measure within the league, so within the EFL, that you say, okay, if you basically get allowable income that you can spend on wages. The wages there only count as football wages. So when you go, okay, you're within the SCMP ratio, it discounts everybody behind the scenes unless you're a football player. Even the manager's not even included in it. So you could spend 100% on wages there and be compliant within the football league, but ignore the rest of the staff. We obviously don't do that. So you go, our SCMP ratio is 54% of our headroom because we've got to look after the whole of the rest of the business. So that, and then the SCMP ratio within the football league is basically a measure of how much the owner has to put in to be compliant. So it's kind of a control, but I'm not convinced it's a good control. So social, so everything that we do, so fans forums, EDI projects, governance. So this is effectively what our strategic aims were for 22-23. So we've got forecasts and actuals. So you can see profit after player trading is more than what we forecast. Net profit is slightly less. We started to budget for transfer revenue, so that's 650 figure. We've actually stopped that in our forecast going forward to mainly highlight what the operational loss is and to kind of hone in on the focus of closing that gap rather than having a need to sell players every season and it being a requirement of budget. So within this year we obviously built Cliff Hill's new training ground, £60,000 worth of donation to kit out of Cliff, which is highlighted in this report as well. So again, just shows the importance of fan ownership to our football club. And then the other bits we tried to include is kind of the 3 to 5 year business plan in here. Again, you can kind of read this in your own time. I won't try and bore you too much with too many words. So again, group structure, so it just looks at the structure. This was obviously pre-bringing the women's team into that structure, so 23-24, the group structure will look slightly different to that. Directors and loads. So this is all stuff you'd get in a normal normal annual account pack, but again, just something we tried to display it in a more kind of friendly fashion, I guess. Decision making, so I thought it was quite important to include this in the report, so how the club boards make decisions, so CTA requirements. CTA is the basically the document that governs the football club and the parameters we can work within that the trust set. So there's certain things there in terms of the flow chart, so is it a CTA requirement? No, we can communicate and execute. If it is, we go to the club board, makes a recommendation, it goes to trust board, and then it's approved or not. And there's different subcommittees within that, so that we also use to communicate through the trust and club. There's a whole bit on there on risk, which I won't go too much into, but again, it just shows that we're identifying certain risks in there. So finance, my favourite bit. So I think the big things in there is the way we've just tried to display the data. So we're trying to get it so core activities, so effectively we're a football club, so we'll try and consolidate all the things that we do. We look to earn from being a football club, so league membership, playing activity stuff that are costs, and then obviously there's some income associated with that, commercial and non-match day revenue as well. So our core activities as a football club, and then you'll go into things like overheads, and then other bits, extraordinary income, how much it costs to run the academy. Again, this is broken down later on in the report as well, but this is just kind of summary stuff. But you'll notice in there how much overheads have gone up. So from 21-22 is 892, 22-23 is 1495. So this is all stuff that now we're becoming an established League One football club. Our costs have naturally risen, and obviously we've tried to strengthen Gary's staff, football staff, support staff within the business as well we've invested heavily in people, so we feel that is the right strategy at the moment because it kind of helps us utilise the building that we're in at the moment, and using people's skills in certain ways to obviously close that operational loss gap as well.
One of the feedback that we had when we were presenting numbers, these are thousands of pounds. It's not 1,799, it's 1,799. Sorry if I insulted anybody in the room.
I mean, I wish they were those numbers. Give me more sleep at night. So there are thousands in there. There's some narrative around profit and loss. It's a balance sheet. Again, we'll go through this in a bit more detail later on in the report. But this is basically, again, it shows the strength of our balance sheet. If you look at other clubs, there's very few that have a net asset position, which is weird. It basically shows how well run we are, actually. So the cash flow bit, again, I'll skip this slide because I think this is a better representation of how cash effectively flows through Exeter City. So you've got the column on the left is operating activities. So this is basically your income and your outflow in just operating the football club on a day-to-day basis. The middle column is investing activities. So this year you'll see so again 1.8 million, but you'll see the purchase of fixed assets of 3.1 million. So that's obviously purchasing the training ground, the training facility. And then obviously financing activities, which is quite low. And then the total outflow from the business and total cash in of 8.7 million, total cash out of 11. But effectively, that's the year we built the new facility at Cliff Hill. So, what you'd expect, I guess, within that. The other bit that we've done there is then break out revenue further. So I mentioned earlier about sustainable revenue and non-sustainable revenue. So we're identifying here that you've got, so go just take the top line, Solidarity and League TV income. So 1.6 million compared to 1 million 21-22. But the jump in that is obviously moving leagues. That's jumped again. So 23-24 was 1.8, and then 24-25 is a jump again based on the TV deal and obviously the streaming live on Sky Sports. We've got a bit more money from there, and then we've obviously chosen to invest that within the playing squad and also staff within the building. So there's all that, basically sustainable, non-sustainable. I think the other bit to highlight within here is probably our commercial section there. So you'll notice in there that the sponsorship and advertising has dropped slightly compared to 21-22. I think commercial is an area that we identify as significant growth. We've put quite strong forecasts in that we believe we can achieve going forward. So that's an area of focus for that, but that's probably something that when you go through the report in detail, you'll look at that and kind of, it's probably an oddity that stands out. So just go through this bit. So you've got basic tangible fixed assets. So this is what's sat on the register. So you've assets under development, that 3 million figure there is the training ground, stadium and related infrastructure of £1 million. So that's obviously all what we own here. So OTR building and things. So there's a bit of narrative around the assets. The debt, so one thing again that we don't tend to have debt. This is an EFL loan, so I thought it quite important to highlight that because we're talking about us kind of being debt-free, but it was basically during COVID. So a COVID loan that we've now repaid, but it's 40 grand a year that got deducted from your central income. So liabilities, this is obviously stuff that sits on the balance sheet. Again, there's a little bit more of a breakdown here, but the two probably figures to highlight on here are trade creditors. This is money owed to people outside the club. The figure of that there, 250, I think 120 of that was owed to other football clubs played over a certain period of time. Deferred income of 903, that's probably the figure I get questioned on quite a lot, but that's basically the season ticket income. So it's deferred income effectively because theoretically it isn't income that you can recognise in your P&L until you start the following season. So with the year end being June, you're obviously already selling season tickets for the following season, so that just sits as a liability until it gets released come the first game of the season. So again, just some more breakdown around some of the balance sheet items. So football debtors, we get that 1.1, so that's money owed to us. So out of that is, so 965 grand of it is football debtors, so that would be things like we'll sell a player and then they'll pay us in instalments over 3 years, so that would sit as a football debtor. And then operational debtors is just stuff in your day-to-day running of the business. The other bit there would probably be some prepayments and stuff that you've paid for in a June, but wouldn't be related until the following season, so July. And then you're basically just building that up until you release it in the following year. Accrued income, again, that would be something so part of the 206 would be in certain contracts we'd have contingent payments. So we might look at just trying to think of an example. Part of that figure is to do with Jay Stansfield, so if he were to be sold, they'd pay us based on how many appearances he'd made for Fulham. Then we've got, so the other bit that we've said around football debtors is obviously how that interacts. You'll see when we sell a player, it's not necessary, we don't necessarily receive all that money in one go. So this is just a table that shows the first bit is obviously players brought, the second bit is players sold, so what's owed to us based on sales we've made historically. So you kind of look at the 2020-2021 season, in this year we're still owed £500,000 from that basically gets completed in August of this year. So you can see how, even though we've sold a player, we might not necessarily get the cash in at that point in time. Player registration value and agents used. Again, this is just for information really, so something we find quite important actually is what we're paying agents. So you have to report what you pay agents, but it's probably good for you guys to know where the money goes when we sign a player as well. But again, this would be something you'd expect to see in the kind of shareholders report anyway, so that's why we've included it in there. This is probably my favourite slide. So this is my league table. So this is everybody's accounts in the 22-23 season, and effectively just shows kind of what we're competing against. So we're obviously the only club in League One in that season that posted a profit. but you can kind of see an Ipswich obviously running at an £18 million loss, which is incredible, really. But again, it just goes as well that we can be competitive within a league by doing things differently. We stand completely apart from most other clubs in the league. 23-24 will also show a profit. Obviously won't be able to get the other teams in the league's accounts until their release, which will be March 25. But again, we'll do something similar that just shows where we sit within that. One of our other KPIs that we kind of look at with Gary is actually how far ahead of our playing budget are we performing. So kind of punching above our weight type of KPI, really. So sporting factors, I'll rush through this because this is obviously not my area. They've left. But this is basically, again, information for you guys to see. So just some stats that we pulled together. Contract expiries, which is always quite interesting. Squad performance, so games started. The other bit that I'll just focus a little bit on is academy. One of the things I've put in here is academy financials. I think the addition to this is, I think there were some questions earlier for Gary around how important is the academy to us. The academy, I did some work recently where the academy in the last 10 years cost us as a club $3.5 million roughly, but generated us 16 million in income. So there's not many departments within the business that kind of produce an ROI of 4 times the value you put in. So I don't think ever question how important the academy is to the club, and Gary completely buys that, but there's just a different, I think like he said earlier, there's probably a different route for some of the players based on being in League 1 and League 2, but hence why we brought people like Dan Green back as well. So social, this is obviously really important to us, so fan engagement, which we just tried to put in some words around what it means to us. This is all stuff that we want to develop as well as we keep producing these reports. So we'd like to get better at kind of displaying this view, which I think is also why the supporter roundtables are so useful in this exercise, because we basically want to produce something that you guys don't get bored around numbers, but also something that you find valuable as well and gives you an insight into effectively what you own. So the women's team, there's bits on the women's team, community links, environmental, some bit on EDI around number of employees and kind of representation. And then obviously volunteers, that was such a massive part of the football club. So again, just things we want to recognise and highlight within it. And then that's me done, I'm not going through the glossary. But we tried to do it where basically some terms in there you might not necessarily know what they mean, but we just tried to do it so it's as accessible as possible.
Okay, thank you, Joe. A whistle-stop tour, as Joe said, Nick said, it will be available online tomorrow, so you can read it at your leisure then, and take your time reading through it. It's really interesting. It is really interesting stuff in there, and just reinforces what a great club I think we are. Any questions for Joe before we move on? Go on, James.
I'm not expecting more than a yes or no answer on this one. And it only jogged my memory because this picture came up. Josh Key, Tribunal, has that been completed, yes or no?
Yes.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, hasn't it?
Yeah, to be fair, I wish I could expand on it, but yeah.
I think we're allowed to say yes, it's complete, we're happy with the outcome.
In case you didn't hear that on the internet, Nick Hawker said yes, it's been complete and we're happy with the outcome. Will there be a press release of that soon, do you think, Nick?
We won't say very much more. Tomorrow, what I've just said.
It's tomorrow, is it, Jeremy? Okay. Any other questions for Joe at the moment?
It was one of your earlier slides, and it was on finance, and it was under the heading, sorry, I started playing it, I missed it, order to conclusion. And the response for every year was the same. I can't remember the word, but it bemused me why it was that answer. Let's go back and have a look.
Yes, I mean, effectively that we're still a going concern, which is basically order to speak to say you're not going to run out of money in the next 12 months. Yeah. It's probably in the glossary, actually.
So, Joe, this type of work doesn't stop, does it?
No.
So I'm guessing it's just like, what, 3-5 year rolling process of looking at the figures and working out how to increase income, decrease costs. Is that sort of, you're always looking at that type of thing?
Yeah, I think one of the things that, so obviously I joined in October, so I've not kind of had an influence on this year at all, but the thing that we're always doing now is 3, even extending it to a 5 year now, where we're looking much further in advance than we probably were before, and that just allows us to do things like commit to playing budgets a lot earlier, so Gary is able to make signings a lot earlier that hopefully would recognise this window. We're not waiting until the end of the window to make transfer or to make player signings. We're able to commit a lot earlier because we've got confidence over the numbers. I think one of the things that we probably underestimated is actually that operational loss, and being able to do that in a quicker fashion than we probably would like, that's actually quite a difficult process, but working with our commercial partners, making those relationships a lot less transactional and kind of mutually beneficial for each other will go a long way in doing that. That's probably something we've learned over the last 9 months of working with them. But yeah, this work never stops, and it only takes, you control what you can control, but then what happens on a Saturday kind of affects a lot of other things. So if gates start to fall because we go down to we kind of go on a tough run. I think one of the really pleasing things was last year going through that, I don't know how you describe it now, that awful run. The run we don't mention, but the kind of how little that did really drop off, and that's kind of certainly for me it was a realisation of actually it isn't a normal football club. Like, we'll support it through thick and thin, and that for me makes my job a hell of a lot easier, because you kind of, the risk is still there, but you're kind of sort of mitigating that just from knowing how invested fans are. And then that goes back to what we give you. So we want to make sure that you guys feel like you own the football club, hence these kind of reports.
And the new software you've got now for reporting after a match, that must be helping you to make decisions a lot quicker, because you're getting the information almost immediately, aren't you?
Yeah, so I mean, we can do it. So the new till systems that we've got in place, which again, any new system brings teething problems, but we're able to get live data, so we could have a look and say, okay, one bar is understaffed and taking quite a lot of money, but we need to move staff to that. That's something that we could potentially do. We can get, after the event, we can get spend in 15-minute intervals. So we might be able to go, oh, the fan zone was busy at half time, but actually now we can go, was it? Or what did we take within there? Where should we focus resource for our next home match? So Rotherham, as an example, we did, so in the Jungle Park, we did £1,200 in 35 minutes, compared to fan zone and centre spot, where we did £400 during that 15-minute interval. So we can now go, Jungle Park's a really important part of the ground, which we're in half time, whereas actually probably if you'd have said just instinctively, you'd have been like, centre spot and fan zone are probably a bit busy.
So does Lauren get involved in that as well, that analysis?
I wish he did. she might. I was thinking whether there's any cross skilling when she was doing her presentation.
So the point I'm trying to make is that we're trying to work hard to improve the service we give to our fans on match day so they can get served quicker.
100%, yeah, that's the aim. So you'll notice in the Stansfield stand, we've gone to a back pass service. To be fair, I'm ad-libbing from what Wayne's told me, but it's obviously not my area. But so we did that within in the pre-season break, and then as an example, our secondary spend in that stand as an average last season was £3.50. For the Rotherham game, it was £6. Now there's probably factors there where it's late kick-off and that kind of stuff, but we definitely think there was a process through there. Part of that increased spend is through process. And that's where I go actually, where we invest in, where we've gone to reinvest in staff infrastructure rather than infrastructure. I don't think we've reached the peak of what we can kind of extract from the stadium on a match day. So when we go, okay, we need more seats would be great, but actually let's look at putting staff in that can extract as much of the revenue from that asset at the moment.
Okay. A couple of questions for you, Mr. Hawker, if possible. Joe touched on it a little bit. The women's team now, fully integrated into the family.
Yeah.
How's that going, and what's been done, and what's to go, and how do you see it progressing?
How's it going? 7-0.
That was a good start, wasn't it?
That was.
They didn't let you down, did they?
Unbelievable start. It was a really quite a difficult process and strangely emotional, because I think playing under the ECCT badge for so long, I think it was really hard for them to let go. It was like losing a limb, I guess for them. But we knew that the level that the women are going to be playing at this season and hopefully next season would require us to start paying players, and of course a charity can't do that. So we brought them across. One of my biggest fears, to be honest, just simply wasn't realised that how's the business going to respond to suddenly having two first teams, a male team and a female team. How's the business going to respond to that? And actually, everybody's done brilliant. Everybody's got behind it. Everybody wants it to work. Everybody wants it to push on. A great bunch of players. We've got an excellent manager. We've appointed. So we've actually created a separate company called Exeter City Women's Football Club Limited. It's a part of the Exeter City Group. So we've done that so that they can develop their own character and their own identity. They don't have to copy everything that we do. So that we've appointed just an amazing board. The board of directors. We've got Jen Dixon, who is the executive chair. Has loads of experience in sport generally and in football particularly. We have Steve Exley, who helped start up the Manchester City women's football team. We have Nick, who's here somewhere, who doesn't represent the trust, but is the trust presence on that board. A really, really strong group. A lady called, I always get her surname wrong, Jane Atwood. Atwood? A really experienced businesswoman. So we've got a fantastic board there that can allow Abby to concentrate on winning the league or giving it her best shot possible. With some really good business brains underneath that to drive the commercial opportunities forward. So really, really exciting. It's probably currently the thing I'm most excited about, because I think it's an untapped opportunity. And if you've been to a women's game, if you haven't, please do. It's a completely different experience to a men's football match. Lots of children, lots of families. The joy is palpable. And having spoken to a number of other clubs, some of which the women's team is playing at a higher level than the men's team, there's always a crossover. You know, there's always people who go to the women's games who will suddenly think, oh, I actually quite like football, so I think I might start going to watch the men play, and vice versa. The thing for me is the joy of a women's game. It's really, really happy experience, lots of young people. And we often talk about our demographic, and certainly within the trust, we talk about how do we retain younger supporters. It concerns us greatly, and then you look at the women's game, and it's just full of young supporters. So they've already cracked it for us in a way. We just have to convince them that the men's football is no different. So it's just an amazing opportunity for us as a business, but also for the type of club that we are, to be inclusive and to help women's football. Not just at Exeter City, but across Devon, because there's an opportunity there for us to impact women's football in Devon as well. And wouldn't it be great if we took the philosophy of the ethos that we've created here at Exeter City and pushed that through the Women's League? Because you kind of sense that the WSL are maybe not going down the route that you would want them to, and they're picking up some of the bad habits of male football. So I think it would be great that we can be a leading light.
Okay, thank you. We've got a few new names in terms of systems coming into the football club, new ticketing system, Berry Connect, getting rid of Spectrex. Can you just run through, we've got Grecian Plus, can you just run through what those changes have, as much as you know? I'm not going to push you into too much technical detail, but what Kazam, their ticketing, what does Berry Connect do, and how that's going to affect and the benefits of having those new systems in place?
Well, so I can certainly run through the systems for you. Kaizen is our new ticketing system. So it used to be Spectrix. When you log on now and buy a ticket, you're logging into Kaizen, not Spectrix. It's simply a system that you buy season tickets through, and you purchase your match day tickets. They're fairly simple, but a step up. The ticketing system that we used previously, Spectrix, was mostly, the code was mostly written around theatres. You know, they dealt with theatres really, really well, didn't deal with football stadiums particularly well, so the requirements are quite different. So Kaizen is the ticketing system. Berry Connect is the trust membership system. So if you're a trust member and you pay your subscriptions, that's where that money goes, that's where we keep a list. It's actually a shareholders register, almost, so we have to maintain it. Every member of the trust is a shareholder in the trust, and we have to be able to maintain that list accurately so we can report it to the Financial Conduct Authority every year, which Steve was here. Steve will be doing very shortly as we approach our AGM. What other systems did you?
We got a new streaming service.
Grecian Plus is, so at the end of last season, the EFL took down, we used to have a thing called iFollow, and that was run by the EFL. All our games were streamed on it. If you lived in Europe, you could watch them. And on certain occasions, you might have been, particularly midweek games, you could pay your £10 and watch again. The EFL closed that down. And we had an opportunity. We could either carry on with a much reduced iFollow service, or we could take the opportunity to go down a more commercial route, which is, I forget the name of the company we're working with. Other media, and that's Exeter City now own its website. It used to be run by the EFL, but now we run it for ourselves, so any revenue that we generate, we get to keep, and part of that is a streaming service. So it's kind of like, you've seen the clubs that have got, folk down the road, Plymouth Argyle TV, we've now got Exeter City TV, we call it something different. But this event tonight will be streamed on Grecian Plus, and you'll be able to go back and watch it rather than go onto YouTube. So we'll get to keep all the revenue that's generated via that.
And also we're going to be getting an app, aren't we?
Aren't we? We are going to get an app. I think it's been delayed because the EFL decided to scrap Emotes, iFollow, and it created a huge demand on technology across football clubs. So loads and loads of football clubs are suddenly thinking, what are we going to replace iFollow with? And I think maybe the companies who are in that market overstretched themselves a little bit. So Grecian Plus has had teething problems. The website took a little while longer than we thought it would to get up and running. And the app likewise. It's just the volume of work that those companies have had to do following the demise of iFollow.
Okay, that's me out of questions for you. Should we go to the floor? See if there's anything? Andrew.
Hi Nick, I've got two questions actually, if I cheaply can ask, on two very different subjects. One is around the new broadcasting contract and what the club's view is on potential threats and opportunities of that contract. I'm thinking about different kick-off terms and how that may affect gate attendance, that kind of thing. And the other question is around future development of SJP and increasing the capacity.
They're getting harder as the night goes on. So in terms of the new TV contracts, so Julian, quite often Justin and I go to EFL meetings and all of this stuff gets kind of discussed, but actually most of the decisions are made at the Premier League level, and there's a bit of blackmail that goes on that says, you can accept this contract or not, but if you don't, we won't give you as much money as we do. So the contract is there. There is a vote that takes place. As you've just seen on Joe's report, we're the only club that gets anywhere near like making a profit. A lot of clubs just need that revenue. So when it comes to a vote, there are 72 clubs in the EFL. When it comes to a vote, if we were to vote perhaps the way emotionally we feel we should, or ethically, we would lose that vote 71-1. So we don't give up, we keep pressing. Julian's absolutely fantastic at those meetings. He really makes a loud noise for us in our model. But we really are challenged in terms of making a meaningful change. So we take the money and very much regret the fact that people buy railway tickets for away games, for example, 3 months in advance because they're cheap, and then Sky come along and change the kick-off time and they can't get their refunds. Sky have promised us a 6-week notification if they're going to change the kick-off time. It's not ideal. It's not ideal at all. But as I said, we're a very small voice in the EFL. Actually a very big voice, but not one that impacts against the championship teams. You've just seen the numbers on League One, the losses that people are making. People just want to fill those gaps. What was the other question?
Development of SJP to increase capacity.
There are opportunities, and we've had plans for a long time some of them are quite fantastical. They're building stands on top of stands. We've got the Jungle Path Triangle, which is owned by Network Rail, but there's always those opportunities. But I think as Joe has been saying, they are huge amounts of money. So every year you have to make a choice. In actual fact, at the next board meeting, we're going to be considering all of the CapEx projects, all of the projects that need a lot of money spending on them, and prioritising them. And I suspect we'll prioritise those projects that drive income. a new grandstand is millions of pounds. We haven't got millions of pounds, but maybe we could invest £500,000 somewhere else and drive revenue immediately, which will then go into feeding the playing budget and keeping us competitive. It's a difficult. The footprint of the stadium makes it really difficult. You know, and a great example of that is the TV gantry, which you know well. It's Bear Grylls territory. You know, so it's.
Okay, thank you, Nick. Anything else before we close? 3, 2, 1. Okay, you've got anything on the internet or anything? Okay, just want to say thank you to Joe. This is Joe's first day back from holiday. He's been here all day. We've had board meetings, haven't you? Yeah. So he's done really well. So thank you, Joe, for hanging on and going through the report. As I said, the report will be out tomorrow, so you can read it at your leisure. Thank you for attending. It's been great. I think it's been a really good, informative evening. And we will do this again sometime soon. Take care, everybody. Safe journey home.
Can I just finish with, because we kind of guess at what you want to know, what you want to hear about, and what you want to know more about. But if there's ever people that you would like to be here and that you haven't heard from before, or if there's areas of the business or areas of the training ground that you'd like to know more about, just let us know, and we'll get the people here to talk to you about it, because it is your football club.